July 7th, 2025. Copy of draft minutes of the June 17th meeting and post on the city website, as have committee reports. There's a number of communications, including, I just want to point out, the one from the Tobacco Free Action Committee reports that we heard about at our last meeting. I forget her name, but she sent us all the information that she reported. Okay. The first thing we're going to listen to tonight is a presentation related to a couple of resolutions, and that is about the Oakdale Playground. And Peter Frank is here to deliver.
Thank you. So this has been uploaded, as you can see. It's there on the city website. This is for the Oakdale Park Playground, which is on the north side of the park. We're working with an existing grant to the city as well as other public and private money to actually bring this project to fruition. Can you go to the next slide, Logan? So the timeline is we're already in the program phase. There was a community input session last Saturday at the park where there was a lot of enthusiasm for the plan. We're now going into the schematic design phase, and later in the year there'll be final documents. There'll be another presentation here at that point, and construction documents, and then we'll go out to bid, and construction will be in 2026. That area of the park won't be available for summer camp. Therefore, next summer camp will still be at Oakdale. We'll just have to find another, we'll have to do some reorganizing to make it work. But it's not possible to have an efficient construction schedule and have summer camp in the middle of it. So that's the timeline. The next slide shows Oakdale Park, its other parks in Hudson. As you all know, Oakdale is very unique among Hudson parks. It has the swimming lake. It has the connections to nature, with a beautiful nature trail. It has basketball courts, skate park, lots of other amenities. And importantly, it's the facility that hosts the 6-week summer camp, which started today. We'll hear more about that from Calvin in a minute. But the summer camp is an incredible resource for Hudson families. You can also, if you could just flip back to the previous slide, Logan. You can also see that there's plans for connectivity among this growing network of parks. There's some existing trails that have fallen into disrepair, which could connect Oakdale to the east side of town, to the school, also down toward Charles Williams. There are exciting plans afoot to restore the connection from 3rd Street down to Charles Williams, and then beyond Charles Williams, trails connecting it to Greenport, and then connects to the Berkeley. So it really creates a wonderful network of parks on the north side of town. And go to the next slide. But as wonderful as Oakdale Park is, sadly, it's in horrible condition. It's quite dilapidated. There's been decades of neglect. It's fallen into disrepair. I don't need to elaborate. Anybody who's been there can see it. One of the saddest pieces of the park is this playground on the north side. And the community has been asking for that to be restored for years. It came up as a priority in 2019 when Friends of Oakdale Lake did a visioning plan for the park. Also a lot of public input around the need for more playgrounds in Hudson as part of the feedback of the comprehensive plan. The input around Charles Williams Park. Playgrounds just come up again and again and again as something that Hudson doesn't have enough of and that we need for all ages. So you can go to the next slide. So this slide shows where the playground is on the north side. Really not a lot more to say about that. But we can zoom into the actual playground. So this is where it really gets exciting. This is the concept plan. There's going to be, the only thing that's cut off in this plan that you don't see is that, if you could click back for just a second, I'm sorry. That we are going to redo the parking here. There'll be a proper handicap place and 3 other parking places. And these roadways will be site work to improve all that accessibility. You won't be able to drive through there, the public, but it has to be accessible for camp personnel and work vehicles to come through, get down to the picnic area by the lake. So we can go back to the close-up slide. So here's the plan. There is a bathroom in the plan. You can see there the small building. That's probably going to be a phase 2. The budget's not going to allow that right away, but we're going to account for it in the plan, and all the infrastructure, the water, the sewer, the electric, everything necessary, is that engineering is going to be incorporated into this plan, so that as funding becomes available, it can be easily added in. There's going to be a new pavilion, which sits at this kind of hub, at this kind of junction. The hexagon, yeah, it's going to be a new pavilion. Right now, for summer camp, we set up a tent, which is only up for 6 weeks. But the idea is to activate this area and make it much more effective, much more useful, much more fun, much more efficient for summer camp for 6 weeks, but then also make it a community amenity all year round. This little area, I don't know if everybody here is familiar with it, but it's this beautiful little quiet oasis, and it creates sort of a little park within park. And a really wonderful, quiet respite for families to go and play with kids. It's a great amenity for the neighborhood. There aren't other playgrounds in that part of town. The closest one is the school district, but you're not allowed to be there during school hours. So it's very limited functionality for people who live in that part of town. So this would be available year round. It would only be unavailable during camp hours for 6 weeks in the summer. It would have a wonderful pavilion, which, like just last Saturday, there was a graduation party at the pavilion at Oakdale. It was wonderful, but they could barely fit in that smaller pavilion. So this pavilion, the leaves are off the trees, it will have leaves like a lake. It's in a beautiful natural spot. It will allow shelter for campers from sun and rain. And the playground itself will have areas specifically for 2 to 5-year-olds and areas specifically for older kids, 5 to 12-year-olds. Some things are, all ages, but some things are more specific to different age groups. This part of the section of the park is more for the younger kids. It includes, caregiver seating here. This is more the older kids, and the swings. This is like a more adventure walk. The idea of the playground is that it will be a combination of accessible elements, which will be universally available to all abilities, and then some more challenging, adventurous things for the kids that want them. And we can just, we can go to the next slide, and I can talk in more detail about some of the elements. Because this is such a beautiful natural site, we want to emphasize natural materials and natural elements throughout and the connection to nature. We go to the next slide. So the 2 main play features will be these structures from Compan. It's a European company that's been around for a long time. They're extremely well made. They have a very sort of elaborate, robust, interesting theory around play and child development. And everything is very sensitively designed for kinetic, sensory, all kinds of interaction with kids. One of them is, again, geared more for a slightly older age, one of them for a slightly younger age. They use farmed black locust from Europe that's milled, so there's completely smooth, there's never any splinters. No wood structure is going to last as long as metal or other things, but this is very durable, very long-lived, very well-built equipment. It should last much better than what's there now. And then these are just some of the other natural elements that will be incorporated. This is from a different manufacturer, but it has a similar feel and will all kind of create a cohesive whole. So there's the scrambles, there's the stilts, which are great for kind of, these are areas that kids can make into anything, and they lend themselves to all kinds of games and creative play. The next slide. There'll be a council circle, which will be, place you can, go have a meeting with your friends, or where, a group of kids can break off and do a little meeting. It could be an area for music or singing, with these stumps, and then a hammock, which is something that everybody loves. And in fact, part of the input on Saturday was perhaps to see if there was room to add a second hammock, because they're so popular at playgrounds. We can go to the next slide. And then this is more aspects of nature play along that, on the bottom edge of it, there was that walkway that was a little more rugged, a little more adventure walk, and that would include this willow tunnel, which is something that could be, weeding and maintaining it, could be a camp project. There'll also be a sensory garden. Again, the kids love to garden. So we want to have things there that can actually be integrated into programming, learning, and educational arts and crafts activities for the kids. There'll be swings. The swings will be metal, just for durability. It just doesn't make sense to use another material. So there'll be swings for older kids, as well as swings for younger kids, as well as universally accessible swings. These are some of the other elements for surfacing and edging. This is sort of inspiration for some of the more adventurous path areas. The surface will be 5R, which is a mat. It's similar to wood chips. It is a wood-based product, but it's a manufactured product. So it's health department approved. It's what's used down at the playground at Promenade Hill. And it's it's a very good product for if you fall off a swing, take a tumble. It's a great service, and it kind of goes with the natural vibe of the park. And lastly, this is a picture of what the pavilion will look like. I think it'll really be a spectacular site there, and make this like a vibrant community gathering space. Even though the complete bathroom is probably not going to be a feature in this first phase, we are bringing in water, and there will be a hand washing station with a water fountain and a hose bib, so that kids can wash their hands, etc. Even if in the near term we're still using porta potty to being able to wash your hands is still nice, especially before lunch. And that's pretty much it. If you have any questions.
Thank you, Chris. Any council members?
Yes, thank you so much for your presentation. I'm part of this too, so you all know, but this is a very well thought plan. Our architects are fantastic. We're doing it in a way that can match the environment. And I have to say, for the amount of things that we're incorporating in that space, it's actually $1 million is not a lot. It's amazing how much we are accomplishing for only $1 million. From that, 440 was a grant we received. 110 is the city has to provide, and it was part of a resolution passed in 2022. And then in terms of Youth of Hudson, for the Youth of Oakdale will provide money, and Spark, right?
Yeah.
Several of them.
Yeah.
So-
The total budget now is around 900,000.
Yeah,
We haven't stopped fundraising so that we could raise more money and complete the bathroom and just do other things. You know, have a little money in there for contingency. You know, happy to entertain that.
yes. So we're gonna have a gazebo, playground for younger kids, playground for older kids, a parking lot,
Wow.
grading all the way down to the lake. I mean, so it's an amazing amount of things we're accomplishing.
So Vicky,
There is not, I'm sorry, there will be electricity, there won't be permanent lighting because it doesn't seem appropriate for the neighborhood. But there will be electricity, so that if you wanted to have like something in the evening with temporary lighting in the gazebo, we'd be able to do that.
Margaret?
yeah, so, the resolution, I think 2022, sorry, the resolution in 2022, has that commitment from the city been encumbered?
25%, yeah.
Has that already been encumbered?
It was there, yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
Yes, so that was there. And also Dominic, it is disabled, accessible for disabilities. So we have the parking lot, and also there are going to be the facilities like swings, everything will be also for kids with disabilities.
Okay, any other questions, council? Oh, Dominic?
Peter, is there any consideration on that, the area as you first go into the right? There used to be bathrooms there, but it got eroded.
Mhm.
So is there anything to reinforce that, so it doesn't keep getting eroded, that hill?
That the engineer is looking at all the edges. That's an area that, you know, we'll explore and see what kind of site work needs to be done. We do know that the water and sewer is there. There's a manhole cover. We're not planning on putting the bathroom there. But we do want to preserve that bank, and we're also looking at some possible reinforcement to the water edge down below, some improvement there. So there is an engineer involved in it that's going to look at all of those factors.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Let's move this along. We'll have the department reports. Nick, are you out there still? There you are. Oh, okay, come on, guys. Fire report time.
No questions there.
I'm sorry, what?
I have no questions.
Oh,
I
thank
think
you.
you were soliciting public comment.
Thank you.
For the month of June, we had 37 calls for service. Was a house fire down during the night down in Hudson Terrace. Building fire in Catskill, and then the Amtrak train cars on fire down just south of the Amtrak station. It was all debris inside the metal structures for the wheels. There was 4 or 5 cars that needed work on, so that was a couple hour ordeal. Couple accidents, a couple gas leaks. Go to tech calls and alarm activations as normal. Nothing really other than that. Bolt has been out and being used. They were out the other day and got a call for service. Just up north, we were the only emergency boat in water on Saturday. County. Going, headed up that way, 911 made contact with the original caller, so we got canceled, but we were out there, so we got a call, so it was. Other than that, nothing.
Questions from council members? Margaret?
Yeah, so, on July 4th, there were a lot of fireworks. and the city doesn't do. So I am thinking that they were private, that they didn't get permits. Do you have any concerns about that? It seemed worse this year than the previous years.
Yeah, I mean, illegal fireworks are always a concern. Normally, they have to be permitted.
Yeah.
And then, for our services, we charge, whether they do it at the Basilica or for other
Right.
events, because we have to have coverage there.
Yep.
Because they can spark fires, especially if it's dry out weekend.
Yep.
Yeah, we had a lot of rain previously, but stuff can dry out. It's been hot over the last couple of weeks, so yeah, that's always a concern. When I heard that, well, sure, my pager's gonna go off shortly.
Yep.
It didn't. We actually had no calls, that night, which was nice. But it is definitely a concern, when that kind of stuff happens. It's just,
But you did not have any permits for private, any sessions on over July 4th, right? That was all illegal part.
the only time we sign any, mass gathering permits and allow fireworks is for mass gatherings
Right.
such as the Basilica, Flag Day,
Right.
the weddings down at
Right.
Basilica,
Right.
different things like that. That's really the only time
So, I mean, it's very hard to do anything about it when it's going on. So I'm thinking going forward, if we could maybe be proactive as a city in putting out notices ahead of time, warning people that this is not permitted. That's something that Chief and I also talked about, because it's really difficult while it's going on to do anything about it.
Right, I think as a city, put out, from the fire department, police department,
Right,
that these things are illegal,
Yep.
that they can cause house fires,
right,
and cause damage to people.
yeah,
Not only knows where the fireworks were bought, but malfunctions and people lose limbs and
Yeah.
life and everything else, so, maybe around times like that, as a city, we could put out, public announcements. People are gonna listen to them, that's
right.
on them, but I guess, I don't think it would be a bad idea for public announcements from,
Particularly educational.
right, stuff like that. There's definitely educational stuff out there,
Right.
like moving forward, especially around the 4th of July, that, we could definitely put out in the future. I don't think that's too big of an ask at all.
Excuse me. Any other questions from council? Moranti?
Nick, I think Green County it's legal to buy in the Green County, I think fireworks, right?
Green County works fireworks.
Yeah.
Yep, right on the other side of the bridge. There's,
Yeah,
there's a tent set up right in the parking lot, right after you cross the bridge.
exactly.
So,
Go to Walmart and go there.
and, well, you could drive an hour and a half and go by them, and you can drive across the bridge and buy them. So it's difficult because you just go by them, and even from an enforcement standpoint, you can't enforce it. It's just, you take what they got outside, they walk back in their house or apartment or wherever they may be, they grab more, you drive away, and you start lighting them off again.
Yeah.
It's a never ending cycle that
Yeah.
I've dealt with for 20 years being on the police department, so.
With, water Wednesday starting up, is there any plans to kind of show off the boat, at any time?
Yeah, we definitely can. I saw that was just starting up. We'll talk to the guys and see it start this Wednesday.
Yeah.
We'll talk to the guys, and I think the schedule's online. See if we can get the guys down there a couple nights or something and kind of move it to a more accessible point. And have it there for people to check out.
They'd be great, especially kids probably.
Yeah.
Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
And now we turn to the youth department.
Perfect. Have here. It's also on the PowerPoint as well. I think I have 6 copies.
I have it on my computer.
Okay. And I will reference this once I get going in the presentation. But again, good evening, everyone. We are in the midst of Oakdale summer camp, so that was day one. We had about 110 kids in attendance today, so it was a very, very busy day. But overall, June was a pretty productive month. We wrapped up after-school programming that ended on June 20th. And we ended the season with a ice cream party. There's also an opportunity for the members to give their farewells to Liz, who has moved on as a director. And we just wanted to take that time to show her our appreciation for her leadership. Staff took time to continue prepping for Oakdale summer camp. And our staff of the month was Josiah Shivers. She's been with us for about 3 years now. Our student of the month was Ayana Fernandez for K through second, along with Isabel Lopez. And for our 3rd to 8th graders, we had Aaliyah Green and Wolfie Azrael. The reason we had two kids this go around was because we did not do a student of the month for May, so we just took the opportunity to combine them. And for team programming, we had Markel Johnson and Callahan Competitor. Peter referenced the plans to rehab Oakdale. So I'll just reference some of the work that's taking place. We have a core team that meets regularly. That core team consists of Gail Whitworth-Lard and Chris Anderson of Star White House Landscape Architect and Planners. And Peter Frank is a part of that team by way of Friends of Hudson U, Katie Overman by way of Spark, and of course, Alderperson Vicky Justmalui as well. And last but not least, Myra Reed, our youth commissioner. So we've met past month or so regularly to again talk about concept ideas and to plan for the event that took place on the 28th. Which we'll get to a little bit later in the presentation. And then last one, I shared a project with you all in regards to working with Carl, who's a videographer. This go around, we did a collaboration with Suzanne Snyder by way of Oral Summer History Summer School. That included a bunch of students from across the country that have been conducting interviews with some of the youth center members, counselors, and alum. This is geared toward just, again, kind of highlighting the legacy, the story, and the impact of the youth department and getting those perspectives from different stakeholders in the community. And so in the next slide, there's some photos for our last day of programming. We also had Sylvia Center there, who was helping us make a homemade ice cream. We also bought some ice cream from Stewart's as well. Can't go wrong here with Stewart's. And so that was the flyer that we put out for Let's Build a Better Oakdale Park. That event took place on the 28th. And won't go into that too much. Peter did a great job of highlighting that, but just with the next slide, there are some photos from that event. As well as on the right-hand side there, that was the snapshot that was captured for the oral summer school history. Sorry, the oral history summer school. There we go. And so that has kept us busy. And then in regards to programming, again, we wrapped up programming. It was a bittersweet moment. Our staff, they really grow an attachment to a lot of the members that we work with. And so these are just some photos that we've captured to share those moments with you all. The Littles, they had a chance to attend a WNBA game. That was the New York Liberty versus the Connecticut Suns. That was a really interactive program for our Littles. They were able to kind of run down the tunnel, dap up some of the players. For some of them, it was their first time at an official game. Some of their first time visiting the city. And that was a collaborative effort, also with the county and We had parents who chaperoned and participated. So it was a really great moment for the department and our youth. And that's something that we are hopeful to continue. And so we can just go to the evening team program slide. And so with our evening team programming, again, we brought the school year to an end, and so we also extended the ice cream party for our teens as well, who really just value having a space to attend. And with that in mind, we will be offering summer hours for our teens, 3 days a week, 5 to 8 for consecutive days, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And we just want to give a congratulations to the class of 2025. A lot of the some of the students who graduated, they're also working with us at camp as counselors. And so we just really wanted to give them their kudos for graduating. Programs, registration, and attendance. The numbers didn't really change much. Registration for K through second remained the same at 33, with a daily average of 19 students being served. Our 3rd through 8th graders pretty much stayed the same. And team programming as well. Oakdale Camp. So as I mentioned, today was day 1, part of the chart font. And we had about 110 kids in attendance. I just wanted to take a moment to highlight the orientation and prep work that went into that. So last week we had 4 days of orientation. That included everything from fire drills, safety plans, camp policy, camper policies, first aid, CPR, being able to use the AEDs, busing logistics, food service. So we really do a comprehensive orientation for our counselors who will be supporting our campers. And so that's we don't take that lightly. So I just wanted to highlight some of that work. And in addition to orientation, we had a financial literacy workshop for our counselors. For some, this is their first job. So, we think there's value in, learning how to read your pay stub, how to stay on the good side of credit building, right? And working on those goals. So Denasia Walker and Maureen Clark from Bank of Greene County, they came in and did a financial literacy workshop with all counselors to set them up for success. And we also had David Uzo, who is a scientist who's been working with us with the study for Oakdale. He also came to talk to the lifeguards, counselors, and to just really offer some feedback about the lake study, about the turtles, about the aquatic life. So that one pager there that you have before you just gives you a concise overview of Oakdale. In short, the lake is safe to swim in. It does have fish. It does have aquatic life. In fact, today, 2 gentlemen were at the lake and they removed 2 snapping turtles. Not by our request, their own doing, of course. But I just say that to say that the lake is a place for us all, and we do closely monitor the ongoing of the lake. And so here are just some photos of the work that takes place. That's our instructor there in the blue shirt, Gregory Watson. He is out of the National Safety Council out of Albany. He was the instructor to complete the first aid, CPR, AED training for our counselors. Each group has at least 2 certified staff, in addition to the office staff, where there's 4 of us who also have the certification. And so we can swing those photos. And yeah, so as I mentioned, that hyperlink there is just the one pager that you have in front of you. Essentially just reassuring you that the lake is safe to enjoy. And so we do invite folks to come out to do so. And we are also in the midst of our YDSL league, so that's our youth department soccer league. Registration is available, on our Facebook page right now. So we do encourage folks to sign up for that and prepare themselves for the upcoming season. And then, last but not least, this is our contact information. We added the Oakdale number to this as well, provided that's where we will spend a majority of our time, providing summer camp. And that is the end of my presentation.
Thank you. Questions from Vicky?
Yes, you seem to be doing a great job managing the department. I don't know how, it must be a little overwhelming.
I have a good team.
Yeah, no, but you are doing a great job. But I was wondering, how is the process of finding this new director? Guys with that.
Great question. So I have completed I am applying to be the director.
Okay.
I've completed one round of interviews, and I'm waiting for the second round. With the idea that I did well enough in the first round. But yes, my understanding is candidates are being interviewed here and now, and I'm one of them.
And I interrupt you, I think Maya will speak to that since she's.
So I'm on the interview committee, so we are in the process of, we've done the first round, Peter Frank, Mayor Johnson and I on the search committee.
Okay.
We had a 30-day call for applications, and we have gone through the first round of first interviews, and we are there to give them our second.
How many candidates have applied already?
A lot.
Oh, yeah.
There were a lot for various reasons, you know, that is important. I said, but, like a lot.
Okay.
So, yeah, so we're in the process.
Okay, good luck.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Oh. Randy.
Yeah, any plans, like, after the, camp, to do like a fishing derby on a Saturday or anything?
We are planning to have the derby. The timeline is something that we're still figuring out, but we do have all intentions to revisit the fishing derby. I'd love to coordinate with you on that if possible.
Sure. Thank you.
Any other questions from the council? Public.
Just curious, what's the lot, 50, 100, or something, applications?
There were,
100, 200, 300?
we posted the position lively, so you always get a lot of applicants from people to demonstrate unemployment, applying for jobs. So a certain percentage of the applicants were very quickly whittled down. I would say that there were at least, would you say about 2,000 legitimate, serious qualified applicants, which we whittled down to quite a number of semi-finalist interviews. I was quite impressed.
Thank you, people.
And just on the snapping turtles, how big were they?
So one of the guys.
I used to live there, so that's kind of like my concern.
Yeah, he said he's found one in there that was, he said roughly 60 pounds.
It looks like this.
It was, it was about a decent sized turtle.
Where did, you know what they grabbed them from? Was it by the truck, by the east side or is it near the beach?
I believe it was. And then
That's where they have,
right,
you sign them.
yep, and it was placed into under.
Okay, thank you, Tom.
Hold on, thank you, thank you. Thank you. Chief Franklin, you're up next.
So providing warrant cam reporting, nothing there to indicate any training needs right now. Number of use of force incidents was 1. That was when we responded to a domestic incident. Taser was pointed out subject, but it was not deployed. So we thought that that incident was going to get a little violent, but it didn't. So that was a good thing. 39 arrests for 54 total charges. Number of remotely disturbed persons calls were 6. And then number of calls involving drug overdose or suspected drug overdose were 2. If you didn't see, I did post something publicly about that, being that there was also a third in the county another death in the county that all were suspected drug overdoses, but I don't have confirmation to give you of that. But just for public information and awareness, and I know it stirred up a lot of discussion, and which was helpful because for us, I know we report on that monthly. However, the county also has some protocols and follow overdose mapping, which for whatever reason, the city was not a part of, but we have signed up for that and now we're a part of that. However, what we responded to wouldn't have fit the criteria for a necessary spike. So we're having some more conversations around what we need to do to change that and get information out faster to the public to just bring awareness and education for people of what to do in times like this. Couple of things. Press release went out today about a gunshot incident. The investigation is active, so I can't really speak on much of the details of that yet. But we're working really hard on that to kind of resolve that. Flag Day and Pride were successful. Traffic wasn't too much of an issue. I think it actually went pretty smooth this year for both events. We do have the Hudson Mile this weekend. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that. So parking regulations should be out tomorrow because we are going to remove parking from the south side of Warren Street during that race. Don't know how many anticipated participants there are. It is later in the evening, so hopefully less of a burden on business owners, but there will be some jogging around with traffic and stopping traffic to make sure runners are at risk for getting hit running down Warren Street. So hopefully the heats are fast and we're not lingering around in the street for that. We actually, next week, bike rodeo is happening at Oakdale. Berkshire Bike and Board is one of the organizers along with a couple of community members. We're working with the youth department and Friends of Hudson Youth and Aaron at the bike co-op kind of organized that. So next Thursday, the 17th, 5:30 to 7:30, spread the word, get the kids to participate doing like helmet checks, like an obstacle course, and I believe there were helmets donated for that as well. Last year, we participated in National Night Out, and the resolution declared the first Tuesday in August as National Night Out in the city of Hudson. I'm going to ask that we do that again for this year, and I'll draft that resolution, and that will be August 5th of next month.
So can I have that resolution for next week?
Yes, I will get that for next.
Thank you. Question?
That's all I was going to ask. Will we have it for next week? To vote?
Yes.
So yeah, I think we discussed this in previous meetings. There are some motorcycles that are going extremely fast, and it's impossible to catch them because by the time you go in the car,
It's been
yes. So I was wondering this handgun radar. I remember Dominic had given me one probably from the police department when I was doing the survey for reducing the speed limit of language. And I think they're a lot faster than the other, whatever you guys use. I don't know.
We have handheld ones.
So you do use those too?
We do sometimes. So we have stationary ones in the cars, and we also have the ability to use handheld ones as well.
Okay.
Any other questions? Public? Yeah.
What is the night out? What exactly is that?
So it's a national campaign to improve community and police partnerships and relationships. So it's organized by generally law enforcement organizations to bring the community together and community organizations together to kind of have a non-stressful event where, we're just kind of hanging out.
It was very well attended.
There was.
Okay. And did you? Heather Campbell, are you online?
I am indeed. Okay. Okay. Yeah, it's unfortunate because, I try to get the prior month's actuals to the extent I can, but the informal meeting is so close to the beginning of the month that we often don't have enough time to do the financial reconciliations that we need to do in order to get the full numbers in. So I think, you know, if the goal is to try and get you guys the report with a little more timely basis, a little more ahead of time, I think I might have to change it to report on the month before the prior month, because, you know, especially in this month, it's just not enough time to do that. So I try and hold off so I can get more accurate numbers, but that might be a, you know, a flaw on my strategy here. So if any of you have an opinion on that one way or another, please let me know.
If you can, yeah, I think it would be great to have the report before the informal or the day of the informal, you know.
Okay. Okay. I will make sure. Yep. I'll make
Heather,
sure.
Heather, if there
Yes.
needs to be a lag, it would be preferable to have accurate information. Because
Well, the information won't be accurate. The question is, how timely will it be? So if I'm reporting like today, am I reporting on June actuals or am I reporting on May actuals? May actuals, I can do 100%. June actuals, I cannot. So I try and note it.
That's what I mean by lag, Heather, that it might be, what your suggestion may be better, that for the informal, that we get the, you know, 100% complete May actual.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then I think that makes sense.
Okay, I will do that going forward. Probably half of the numbers on this page are May actuals anyway, which is why it says some actuals through June at this point. So let us go through this. Because also for things like, for example, for plumbing permits and building permits, until, you know, until code enforcement brings up their deposit and brings up their deposit slip to us, we can't record it because obviously we don't know what it is. And sometimes we'll get things, understandably so, you know, into the month that were for the prior month that we have to charge back. So that's why it's, you know, that's one good example of why it's difficult to do, you know, for example, June actuals so early in July. Same thing with things that come into the bank account. Until we reconcile the bank account, the things that get automatically deposited, which are becoming more and more, particularly when it comes to parking and parking tickets, you know, it's getting very complicated in that front because more things are coming in and not always well defined or described in, you know, the EFT deposit that some company makes into the bank. So just give you a little insight as to why that is. So I will make sure that we've got 100% for the month prior to the month that I've been trying to do. Okay, so having said that, plumbing permits and building permits, you can see that we are at 6,600 and 52.6, which is certainly a little lower than we had anticipated by this point in time. I have not had the opportunity, for reasons I will get to further down, because we're in a very tight crunch with a lot of things going on in my deposit, but I will reach out to Craig Haig and ask him if he sees a change on the horizon from that. Obviously, some of that was based on some development that may not happen this year. So we'll just continue to keep an eye on that, and I'll continue to keep reporting it on a monthly basis. For parking revenues, you can see that we're at about 83,000 for meter, on and off street parking. The front street lots at 190, a little under 200,000. Parking and other permits is at just under 43, and then parking tickets is at about 243. So out of those, parking and other permits and parking tickets are at roughly or slightly above where we'd like it to see. The front street lot and the off-street parking are a little low, but again, front street lot in particular, a lot of that comes in through the bank statement, so it is missing. So we should probably take that as more of a May number than a June number. There's nothing changed in the last set of tables. We won't get another sales tax contribution for a month or so. Lodging taxes, I report a little further down. That is only through March. That's because we changed our software platform, not the provider or the developer, but they upgraded their software. When they did that, they modified the reports that we were able to use to reconcile what was coming in. Is another thing where all of that money just comes directly into the bank account, and we have to sort it out and reconcile what comes in from where and does it tie. So they've made some changes to the reporting that's made that very challenging to do, but I've already spoken to them about it, and we're going to be setting up a meeting with the people that do their reporting programming with the hopes that they will be able to remodify it to something more usable. So I hope by next month I will have that better updated. And if I don't, I'm going to see if I can find some other kind of workaround, although it will be quite manual because I don't like it to go this long. Tax on adult use cannabis. We had this conversation last month and we're having it again. The state has not made a distribution yet. I know that they as a whole are having challenges with the whole Office of Cannabis Management and who got licenses and all the illegal things. And maybe that is what's holding things up. But I think it's very frustrating for all of us because we certainly were looking at this as a, you know, a helpful revenue stream to help offset some of the increasing costs that the city is experiencing when other revenue lines have basically flattened out, and to not have any visibility on it is, you know, frustrating to say the least. Mortgage tax, again, we only get that payment twice a year. You can see that the first payment was quite less than half, but that's not really how mortgage tax works. It's very unpredictable. It varies a lot. So it really all depends on, you know, property exchanges, and, you know, there could be a lot more in the summer and fall than there were in the, you know, early months. So we shall see. But again, we will keep a track on that every month and report that to you. We mentioned before that the AFR has been filed. It's online on the city website, so everybody can take a look at the 2024 financials as they were reported to the city. We have been working to provide the auditors with all the various and sundry information that they request, but this is the week that they really do a hard press. It's like this is the week that they are dedicated to the city of Hudson, which means the requests just start coming in a flurry. So we are and will continue to be, certainly for this week, pretty busy with dealing with them and their requests. We do, however, anticipate that the final audited financial statements will be done by October, which is well in time for other requirements we have on the municipal market. Operational, we are currently using the financial package. It does work. There are definitely bugs. There are some issues that we're continuing to try and work out. A couple are kind of significant, but overall it's relatively operational. One thing that I don't think I've mentioned before is, as part of this, we have, unfortunately, with the exception of the council bills, because the council bills are more complicated given the number of people that have to look and review them. For the departments that have commissioners, we actually have now basically an electronic workflow. So the clerks put in their vouchers and it goes to an approval to the department head, and that goes electronically to the commissioner, and that comes back to our office for us to have the final authority and authorization. So we have to go in and check and make sure all the vouchers have their attachments and that everything matches and we're not paying sales tax and all of that. So that's been a plus. It may be something that the finance committee or some other committee of the council might want to think about in terms of how non-commissioner bills, which are currently under the auspices of the council, get approved, and whether there's some way that we could work an electronic workflow into that. But it's obviously not a huge priority for us. So utility billing. So, you know, we had a go live next week. We probably spent close to 30 hours in conversion and training meetings. I won't say it went smoothly, but we are actually done. So we're in the very early phases. The first round of water and sewer bills for this past quarter that went out in July actually came out of the new system. So that's pretty exciting. We had talked about wanting to try and do a water sewer bill the same way we do tax bills, which is issue one in the year and have 4 quarters. For whatever reason, because the systems are, they kind of look the same on the front end, but the back end, they work very differently, and they apparently don't have the capability of doing that. But one thing that we are looking to implement before the end of the year is moving to a different online tax payment system, which is more integrated with the new software, and which will also allow for the first time for people to be able to pay their water sewer bills online, which is another thing that people have been requesting for longer than I have been in office. So we believe that we're going to be able to make that transition without any additional funds for the Treasury budget. And then we'll just build it into the budget for next year. But that's going to be obviously a big boon for the taxpayers and for the water and sewer bill payers, and will also streamline, the laborious effort of collecting those taxes for the city, for the water and sewer department upstairs. So the last piece is tax collection. As I think most of you know, that has been the one that has been the most challenging to do for a variety of reasons. Partially because we're a city and we have to track a lot more information, because we have not only to track our receivables, but the county receivables, and then we have the delinquent school taxes that we have to track, but then we have to pay them off after a certain period of time. So that's all much more complicated than a lot of other entities, at least entities our size. So, bigger entities have these issues, but they also have bigger budgets and bigger staff. But the one thing that was most critical, in addition to, having everything else work, is to make sure that we have the ability to port over and to create new installment payment plans. And especially as we're going into this foreclosure process, we want to make sure that that capability functions perfectly, so that when people do want to come in and potentially enter into agreement to address their back taxes through that program, that the software works and works correctly. So that's my primary focus, is to make sure that that is in place, to make sure that we have that capability from day one in the new system. We will not port over until we know that that works. We'll stay on the old one if we have to, because I want to make sure we're giving people that opportunity. More software, the lodging tax also, I talked about this, so I'll just skip over it. So basically, yeah, we changed it. Overall, the software is better, but again, like most cases, a couple things broke, and unfortunately, one of the things broke is the thing that we need to, do our bank reconciliations. So that's a priority on top of the other priorities. Software improvement district, I think, sidewalk improvement district, sorry. I think everybody knows this, but the work of the board and the work of Real Property and Suzette Bowie and the work of Crawford Associates, notice my name is not in that list. They were able to successfully create the data that has to be imported. They were able to successfully provide it to Real Property, because that information has to be on the assessment roll. And so that is a great first step. The next step from, my perspective is figuring out how we get that onto the tax bill next year, and how it gets tracked, and how the revenues get set aside in the right way. So yet another priority on our list. This is really just an FYI for people, because it's something that we've been spending a fair amount of time on behind the scenes, is that, as you probably all know, Providence and Hall and Schuyler Court have had a pilot directly with the skiddies for the last 30 years. It expired. So a lot of people were involved, but they were able to successfully come before the IDA, the Hudson IDA, and the IDA was able to provide them a pilot as well. And so as of June 25th of this month, Schuyler Court and Providence Hall are back under a pilot, which is great. And they're under a pilot with the Hudson IDA, which is probably, probably a little easier to be managed. Other anticipated borrowing, I don't really have anything new there. I'm just keeping it because I think in this section to keep reminding people that there's going to be more debt coming up, and also that EFC project is going to be, huge and have a lot of impact. So I just want to make sure that we're all keeping an eye on that. Foreclosure proceedings. So the attorney in place, whose name is Mike Bruno, did reach out to Andy, and did also reach out to Giff Whitbeck, who is the attorney that did the last foreclosure proceedings. He was able to get some documentation and information from Giff, which is great, because that basically saved him time from, to have to reinvent the wheel, and saved us money because he is not spending his time to reinvent the wheel. So we're at the point where he has drafted a 30-day demand for payment. We are meeting tomorrow actually to review that. We're going to review and revise as needed the list of delinquents, which is just basically taking anybody who has paid off the list before it gets officially published with the city clerk. And we're going to work on a timeline for the balance of the proceedings. And those are some of the activities listed below that have to happen. It's all dictated by, New York State real property law. So it's pretty definitive in terms of all the steps you have to take and what the windows of time are. So it's just a case of making sure, his windows of time and his availability get built into that rough timeline. The other thing that's, yep.
About that issue, when the Supreme Court decided that houses in foreclosure, the owner gets the profit that might be there. The question was, who covers all the expenses? I remember we discussed that a couple of years ago.
Yep.
Has that been?
Actually, if you look at the next bullet point, it basically says we need to establish some sort of procedure that we're going to track expenditures against the process, since we are now liable to return to the prior homeowner. So it's not just a tracking thing, it's also keeping track of that, keeping track of the money. Now we're going to have to put it in some sort of escrow account. We're going to have issued checks back out. I mean, that's a big extra amount of work that we haven't figured out. And unfortunately, I have been checking on a pretty regular basis to see, did city X try this or did city Y do that? And I'm finding very little precedent since the ruling. So, I think it's clear that, if we do a title search, we can put the cost of the title search onto the property tax. They've been doing that before I was here. The question is, I'm sure we can charge the attorney's fees that are working directly on the foreclosure. How do you determine how you parcel those expenses out across the properties? I don't know. You could do it just the cost divided by the number of properties. You could do it based on the assessed value. What do you do if you assign it to somebody and then they come clean later? So there's a lot to figure out.
The attorney will identify what property they're working on, won't they?
I mean,
There's some
not
work that the attorney is doing that goes across all properties.
Perhaps.
No, there are. For example, let me give you an example. So if we're going to do a title search, right, there's going to be an actual cost to some company to do a title search. That's going to be specific for each property ID. That's easy. We can put that on the tax bill. The attorney spends, let's say, 20 hours of his time working to engage the title company, to provide them with the information they need, and so forth. How do we take that money, which is not property specific because it's across a process? Same thing for my office. Number one, are the costs with my office and my office's time, should we be tracking that? Should we be tracking the amount of time that we're spending specifically on foreclosure things? And can that be an allowable expense? I think it should be, because otherwise we're basically a free real estate agent for the people whose properties are getting foreclosed on. So, but there's, like I said, there's almost no precedent for any of this right now. So,
Thank you.
and then 98 Paddock Place, as we know, the eviction was set for July 9th, which is 2 days from now. I did hear from somebody who said they went by the property the other day and saw a U-Haul in front, and I said, oh, great. And he said, well, I'm not sure if they were taking things out or putting things in. So I'll leave you on that note. I think it was a joke. I certainly hope so.
Question from council members. Heather,
Lloyd, so these increased costs that you were referring to, where is the city experiencing the areas that we're seeing these increased costs in?
that's a huge question.
Maybe you can summarize the general idea, the biggest areas.
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you clearly enough to understand what the question was.
Retirement fund.
Let me get it from Heather. Heather, so Actually, the question is, what are the areas the city is experiencing increased costs? And, Tom was saying the retirement fund. Is it a big
Yeah, I
one?
mean-
What else is?
Well, basically, all of your personnel costs, because all of the contracts have built-in increases. Retirement contributions that the cities are required to submit have been going up constantly since the time I've been here. Hospitalization costs for the most part, which is, health insurance and other types of insurance, that has been increasing on a steady basis. And that's the bulk of the non-discretionary expenditures on behalf of the city.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Heather. Let's move along.
Thank you.
Rob, are you there? Yes, somewhere? Rob? Doesn't seem to be there. Okay, maybe we'll come back. Thank you.
His report is not here, is it? His report is not here, is it?
No.
He's out of town.
His report is not
No,
here.
he's on vacation.
How does everybody know that?
Sorry,
How do you know that? What?
because I talked to him
When, today?
last week.
Last week.
Last week.
Great. Okay, moving right along. We're gonna do some, maybe to the resolutions. The first resolution, appointing commissioner of the, may I have an introduction and a second? Dewan, second? The next is a resolution. One second, man.
Are you pulling them up, Logan?
Yeah, it is. The next resolution is Smart Growth Community Planning Grant. Can I have an introduction and a second? Okay. What's that? Okay, one, second? Yeah. Question?
Can you make it bigger, Logan?
I do have a question. What's the cost of the program and what is 10% of that?
This is a grant, so we don't know how much they're gonna get.
Right, but it's to pay for a particular program, right?
So say that again?
It's to pay for a particular program?
It's to program that helps us redo our zoning.
Right, but how much is that going to cost us to?
It
redo
says
our-
10%.
I don't know.
We don't know what the
No, I know.
cost is.
Right, because we're applying for, I mean, how much are we asking for? Is that what you're?
No, wouldn't you have an idea how much it would cost to redo the zoning and then apply for a grant in hopes that you're going to be able to pay for it?
You
And
had to
then
RFP. Would you have to do RFP for that?
No, it's a grant.
No, I mean, to find the cost. No. How do you find the cost of, to do it?
Yeah, how much?
We just need to know what the grant is and the amount of the grant.
No,
And
that's
then-
not what I'm asking.
No, I know what you're asking. You're asking how much would it cost? And because we are in a way obliged to 10% if we
Yes,
sign this.
Right.
Yeah, I know, but then I'm saying it all is based, how much will the state, or it's better if it's all.
Justin, are you there?
Yes.
Justin?
There is.
Hello.
Yeah, do you know about this grant application for the Smart Growth Community Planning Grant?
Yeah. So we are going after $200,000, and that has been the reported cost of what a form-based zoning code would cost. So the city matches 10%, which if we're going for the 200,000 and get the 200,000, there would be a $20,000 match.
Thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
There you go.
I think we should probably have that figure in the resolution.
resolution.
Might be a good thing to
Okay.
add.
Yes, our grant writing team is currently doing a cost, I don't know what the term is, but where they're figuring out all the dollar amounts. I mean, this is the early process, but that documentation will be forthcoming.
Great, thank you,
And
Justin.
could we also get some information on what the requirements are for this grant?
Certainly.
Smart. This is, I'd like more information on what this type of zoning project is. Can we get some background information on what that is?
Yes, I can email all of that to all of the council members this week.
Great. Thank you, Justin.
Welcome.
Let's see, the next resolution is upon approving DEC impact grant application with the Friends of Hudson Youth. Can I have an introduction in a second? Devon and question? Okay, the next is authorizing an EFP grant for the Oakdale Improvement Project. Devon and Jennifer, any questions? And the third, is a seeker determination for the Oakdale Improvement Project. Introduction in a second. John and Jennifer. Sure. Oops.
AARP.
Yes, sorry about that. We're applying for membership in the AARP network. Can I have an introduction in a second? Juan and
I'm too young, just kidding.
oh,
What exactly is this?
hold on. 1 second.
Sorry, did you get a second?
Justin, can you speak to this also? Because I know it came from.
Hello.
Yeah, yes, the AARP. Can you explain it?
Yes, it was suggested by our grant writing team at LaBerge that we should apply, be a part of the AARP world, since we are very senior centric here in Hudson. And the reason for us being recognized as an AARP community is that it specifically would help us score higher on our grant application. But of course, it would have to be.
Grant application.
It's like we get points.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And by the way, anybody over the age of 18 can now join the AARP.
No.
Yes, yes,
I thought it
true.
was 50.
No, it used to be 55. They changed the rule. It's 18 now. Yes, so you can join.
I can.
Okay. The next resolution is declaring, making a negative debt to the Oakdale Park Improvement. An introduction in a second, please. One. And. Thank you. Question? Moving right along. And this is. Oh, this is really the comprehensive plan. This resolution establishes the council as the lead agency in relationship to the comprehensive plan. Can I have an introduction in a second? Devon and Jennifer. Okay. The next resolution is supporting HHA's application to the Pro Housing Program. Can I have an introduction in a second, please? Devon and Jennifer. Questions? Oh. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. Go ahead.
So, well, with this fall project, I'm not happy of how Little Devs lost the grant and how it all took place with it. If the applicant wanted the public hearing They should have just asked for a public hearing. So anyhow, this was really not well maneuvered. But I want to ask if the applicant does not receive the 3 millions, then does that mean that they will reduce the amount of units? Because obviously the community wanted, and the neighbors, they wanted to have it a smaller project.
Jeff Dawson, the executive director of HHA, is here to answer your question. Jack?
So, good evening. No, we would not reduce the amount of units. This is just a source of funding that we'd like to apply for to fill our gap. And so if we don't find it here, we're going to, look for it elsewhere. So it won't determine election size of Friday. Yes.
What is the gap in funding?
15 million.
How much?
Sorry, 15.
Other questions?
Well, so, but if you don't get the 15 million, then what happens? I mean, if you don't get the funding, I don't understand.
So,
I mean, there must be some-
typically, the gap funding typically comes from HCR, but they want to see us to reduce it as much as possible. It's a project that's going to happen as long as we get the funding, but they're in support of the project, fully in support of the project. So we're doing what we can to reduce the gap in other ways, as well as talking to HUD, things of that nature. But typically, these type of projects do happen. It's just, it's a back and forth to make sure the gap was actually higher than this before, much higher. One of the things that happened is we've spoken to our congressmen. When I go to professional conferences, we go to Capitol Hill, we have discussions with the congressmen. And before, we were not in a qualified census tract. Now we are, which brought a tremendous amount of money to the project. There's going to be, we're making a brownfield application that's going to bring more to the project. So we're going to get it.
So this is big money for a city like us, and of course, we're not a wealthy city either. I just was wondering, do you expect the city of Hudson to provide any funding?
No, never.
So the gap
Or
doesn't include the remediation.
Well, yes, a pilot. We have a pilot now.
Does the gap include the remediation, or you don't know that cost yet? So brownfield.
Does the gap include the remediation?
Yeah, you say no. No, you don't know the number yet.
Does the gap include the remediation, of the brownfield remediation?
Yes, there's a large gap, but I'm not sure I'm answering the question correctly. We're assuming that we're going to be getting brownfields funding. We've submitted an application. We've received a letter back from the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation that the application is complete, which is a major step. And we're expecting to be accepted into the brownfields program by the end of the summer. So if we get that funding, if we don't get the funding, then the gap would be higher.
Gotcha.
And then you, everyone who you are, for
John Mario.
Yeah, if I could just add one other thing. One of the things, since the last time we were here, we've been redesigning the project in response to comments from the Community Council Planning Board. And the last time I think we were here, we were talking about 5-story buildings. We're now at 4 stories. So the buildings are now 4 stories.
How many units?
About 166 units in the first phase, okay? And that includes 6 units, townhouse units on Columbia Street. Okay, so that's the first phase, and that's the only thing that this funding is related to.
And just to note, that's only 35 units worth.
So the total though, do you know the total amount of units that, from all of them? I mean, the complete project?
Yeah, that's the
260?
housing, the planning board asked us to, when they were reviewing the project, they wanted to see what would happen if the whole site was developed. Okay, so they asked us to come up with an estimate of what could be built reasonably on the rest of the site. And that's about another 100 units. So originally, when we were here, we were talking maybe 320 units on the whole site. So now we're down to 166 in the first phase. And if the second phase is developed, you wouldn't probably see more than 100 units on the rest of the site.
400 something.
Yeah, so, your gap right now, you said is approximately 15 million, and we're talking about phase one here. And this is with the brownfield information, off the table. So what is the projected cost of phase one and how much funding have you secured?
Sure. The cost right now is about $102 million. Okay, phase one. And again, this is subject to continued review by the state, okay, and continued design work. One of the things that we've been able to do is, in addition to doing the brownfields application, one of the concerns that was raised here at the planning board is about the condition of the site. Is the site going to be able to hold the buildings? We've done borings now, and we're in the process of designing the subsurface foundation. So the answer to the question is yes, we can use the site. Okay, it's going to be fine for what we're proposing to build, and we'll have all that information to the board and to the planning board. Will be on a portal that the planning board has once we get the design set. So the current budget is around $102 million, and that includes funding from the state, funding from Pro Housing, which is this application. We're looking for some other funding sources as well, maybe the Federal Home Loan Bank. And as Jeff said, anything we can do to reduce that gap for the state, they would appreciate. But if we can't get the funding, then we just have to ask the state for more money.
So if it's 102 and your gap is 15, you're saying that you have already secured 87 million, is that correct?
We don't have any approvals, okay? You don't get this, most of the money is coming from New York State Division of Homes and Community Renewal. And they're gonna provide tax exempt bonds, and they're gonna provide tax credits for the project. You don't get those approvals until probably about a month or so before you close. But we've already submitted our budgets to them. They've looked at them, and we're in ongoing discussions. Those budgets will be moved around over the course of the next 6 months to 9 months for the state. So you don't.
When I initially met with Manco and went through like the financials and so forth, this was going to be funded through investors who were going to get various tax credits and so forth. So what investors do you have lined up, and who has committed to investors?
Sure. We've gotten 2 letters of letters of intent. Okay, from investors, Raymond James Tax Credit Investment, the national company, and the other is Hudson interestingly named Hudson Housing Capital, which is also a national firm that they just funded our project in the Housing Authority in Kingston. So it's those investors are interested. Again, we're still in negotiations. They continue to review the project. Okay, as the budgets change over the course of the next couple of months with the state, and that market changes. In other words, right now they're telling us what they're going to pay for the tax credits.
Right.
3 months from now, 4 months from now, that number may go up, may go down a little bit. So the budget is in constant flux until you close.
So I guess that's why I'm confused as to how you can say definitively that you have a gap of 15 million that you're trying to close. That's what I'm getting at.
Okay, because we had estimates of what the tax credits are going to be. We had estimates of what the tax exempt bonds are going to be. We have estimates of what we're going to get from Pro Housing. We have estimates of what we're going to get from the Federal Home Loan Bank Board. These are all estimates until they're not.
Yeah,
Typically, each entity is waiting to make sure you're putting all the funding together in a capital stacks.
no, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Yeah, how much is the brownfield?
What was the question?
How much is the brownfield remediation going to cost?
The brownfield probably is going to, the way brownfield works is you estimate the cost and then you get an allocation from brownfields. We're probably going to show costs of around $3 million, which is then going to generate a higher brownfield money coming in.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Just for my clarification, these current analysis, your current analysis, which could vary.
Yes.
Right now, there's various, you name like 5 different things, the bonds. So that number in your thinking right now is 87 million to answer Margaret's question.
Between,
And it could change, we realize.
yes,
But I'm just asking current thinking.
Yeah.
Would be 87.
Thank you for getting that
I
back.
mean, we can give you a.
No, that's fine. No, you answered the question. Thank you.
Okay. But yes, it's around that number.
Okay, moving right along, we have 3 settlement proceedings, which we've discussed previously. The first one, sit with Jared Davis, I have an introduction and a second. Margaret and one. And then the next one was Esposito. Margaret. And third was Ormond House. Okay. Next resolution is a resolution funding the creation of a city clerk consultant. Can I have an introduction and a second, please? Margaret? And? Okay, come on.
So I have a question of this.
Sure.
I was gonna ask.
So, my understanding from talking to Tracy, I believe, is that she was going to do some hours, pretty much as a per diem. And it's really about doing, additional training and so forth, transitional stuff. I do not like that this resolution is written broadly as a consultant to assist with daily tasks. I would prefer if it were written as a resolution to approve in a contract with Tracy to do additional training with our current clerk. Because having it as it's currently written sets a precedent.
What was that? What was your point there? I didn't hear.
I'm sorry.
Tom said, I hear you. I didn't quite hear what you were saying.
What I'm saying is we have a resolution here for a consultant to the city clerk to assist in daily tasks.
Right.
What this is really for is a agreement with our previous clerk to do work as a per diem, doing additional training for the transition to the new clerk. And I'd like it to be explicit.
More specific to that.
Okay, good. It's not like ongoing work.
Okay. We'll have to reintroduce that. Next. Next resolution is, accepting fire department donation of $5 for public sale auction. And Margaret. Now, the next resolution is, from, Penrose, who are also applying for the pro housing, same pro housing grant. Can I get an introduction in a second? Anything? Questions? I know those people are here, if you have questions.
I do have questions for them, but not about this.
Okay, well, let's get to this then. Donna?
Well, of this, I'm still wondering about the referendum. Because when we spoke last time, you said it's going to be July. But I'm wondering how that actually works, because I thought if it's a school district, it has to be during, unless it's a special, which is going to cost money, it's got to be during their school elections, which is May. Unless somehow it gets put on a general ballot, which is a little tricky because not everyone's in school district. So what's the anticipation of the referendum getting done? Because I think that's going to screw up the schedule.
Yeah, so we're consulting with HCR on their preferred timing to hold that vote, whether we can show site control for the 9% application with just the person salary we have now, or whether they'll require us to hold that vote ahead of the 9% application deadline, which is going to be in the fall. And that will determine when we coordinate with the school district to schedule that vote.
Right, because
Could you identify yourself, please?
Sorry.
Could you tell us who you are?
Yes, sorry. Hi, I'm Joe Riccinotti. I'm with,
Sorry?
yes. I'm Joe Riccinotti. I'm an associate working on the JLE project with Penrose.
as what would happen if it doesn't pass, right? And then you're really going to be in the hole in terms of all the work you're doing.
Yeah, correct. I think we need to be very strategic about when we schedule this vote, and that's something that we have our initial feedback call with the UCR next week on the project, and that's how we're discussing a lot with them.
A lot of people don't turn that back page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. You want to ask questions about the project?
I have just general stuff.
Did you-
One of the,
Hold on a minute. Did you see the documents that they submitted?
oh, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so making sure.
So, one of the things you submitted was the assessment, the hazardous assessment, waste materials assessment that was done for the Hudson Business Coalition, which I had actually already read. So what was missing, it wasn't addressed in that particular report, but we talked about this last time we were here. In addition to the asbestos and the lead paint, there's also a 10,000 gallon fuel tank on that site. You're aware of that, I assume, right? And it's, right, that's an issue. There's also a high voltage transformer in the building that they were looking at that would need to be moved out of the building. Are you aware of that as well? Yeah.
Not very well.
And then the other thing that's not in the report, because when the engineer looked at it, because of the asbestos situation and the remediation that would need to occur for that, it was, and the lead paint, there's a lot of black mold in there. And so I just want to bring all those things forward because they're not actually in that report, but they are known issues in that building. And the transformer issue, you take a look, because that is a serious hazard to have that building. And why it was put in the building rather than outside is anybody's guess.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? One last resolution.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
My concern is about the traffic, and there is no traffic study that has been done for Carroll Street. Carroll leads into the property as well as State. State has a major intersection, State and Fourth, where there has been a pedestrian accident with an elderly person who's my neighbor. So I'm concerned about the traffic there. I know that you guys are not going to have as much an impact as what the school did at one time. But since we've already had pedestrian involved accidents with people of the same age that would be living in the building, I'm hoping that maybe you will do your own traffic study or recommend some changes to the intersection there that could be helpful to us or helpful to you.
I thought we had a traffic.
Yeah, we do.
We don't have, there's not one for Carroll Street. They have things based on other places, not specific to that.
I'm trying to find the report.
It says traffic assessment letter. And then it goes on and it's taking from other.
Let me
Yeah.
clarify, is this the right time? to do
Yeah,
this?
sure.
Survey, so, thank you, we did, provide you with a letter summarizing high level look, number of trips we expect during the peak hour, and equated that to some DOT counts for State Street. We don't have any other streets, they don't count all of them. And to your original question of traffic study, we can absolutely do that. It definitely, the thresholds have not been met, but we can certainly do that to satisfy your concern. Yeah, the manual that was used in Institution of Transportation Engineers, IT trip generation manual, is a national standard, and it does look at different land uses. We actually evaluated 2 different land uses for this. One being affordable housing with a subcategory for senior.
Yeah.
And then another land use, which was just senior housing, which I think had a higher trip rate. We went with the higher trip rate just to be able to conserve.
I realize that it's not gonna be as much an impact as it was when I was in school, but I am very concerned.
We can certainly look into the data on that accident, and try to see if that was something that will, or if any changes can be made to help with that.
There needs to be a blinking light there or something, just people don't pay attention. They're on their phones. It's a four-way stop.
Didn't we put stop signs there recently?
There's not some, yes.
There's always.
I think it was done always, I think it was like the last few years, maybe.
So they better than a stop sign.
Yeah,
Best we do is look at it, see if there's any recommendation.
okay,
Changes to that.
that would be helpful and I would.
Just, quick question, just because I just hit my head. Are you planning on doing like a bus shelter like Crosslands has? Because obviously seniors, are gonna be using, a county bus. So is there plans to put a bus shelter there?
I'm not seeing each other.
It's not something we currently have in our site plan, but it's something we do want to look at.
Okay, just for, again, weather safety and all that, that's another thing. That I think is beneficial.
Okay, let's get to our last resolution. We authorize the city of Hudson and Columbia Land Conservancy to enter into a licensing agreement to improve Travel Williams Park and connect their property. With kind of introduction in a second. Ron? And Rich? And first. Okay. Let's talk tonight. We'll see, we have a number of laws to talk about, that should approve next week, I believe. Crystal, I remember you wanted to talk about.
Yes, so I had some follow-up questions based on the materials that Penrose had provided, just to be able to look at some of the impacts. It's okay to go through those now?
Sure. Yes,
Okay.
definitely.
So Jennifer, you had just commented on an impact with your concerns regarding Carroll Street. If you're going to provide additional data for Penrose, if you're going to be providing additional data on that, could you show the additional, the increase in traffic at that intersection point? I'm not exactly sure where it is, and how the development may impact traffic in that area. And then one of the questions I had is, I know you've got I think you said that there was going to be 44 cars that were going to be needed for parking and that you've got 66 spots. How many bedrooms are actually going to be in this development, though? I know it's a 62 unit, but what's the bedroom count?
So it'd be a 65 unit, residential property, studio and 1 bedroom.
So the bedroom count is the same as the number of units.
Oh, sorry, the actual bedroom count.
It's the same as the number of units.
If it's-
Correct.
And you're anticipating 44 cars total, because I assume that there's going to be an assumption that not all residents are going to actually have vehicles that are going to need to park on site.
So that number was also taken from the reference standard. So it is, and yes, I believe that is the assumption, but it's all baked into the reference.
I have another question along that same line. I'm sorry. How many staff will be on site daily?
So we'll have a minimum of 2 that are going to be employees of the man company. And then we're also going to have on-site supporting services staff, which are going to be services, likely 4 to 5.
Okay, so an additional 6.
So I just want to answer the last question definitively. The 40 or 44 spaces, if you look at the table 4, is taken from the ITD manual. But Penrose has indicated that generally speaking, 1 per unit is what they're seeing. Probably
Okay.
less for a senior, but for a typical apartment, 1 per unit.
All right, so you're saying that it typically be seeing 1 per unit, though you're using the standard that's got the 44. So you're still looking If you're looking at one per unit, you'd really be looking at, 65 plus your staff. Is that right?
One per unit would actually be a pretty conservative estimate for, that would be for a family property as well. This is a senior property, which has less. Sean, you were saying,
Sorry, Sean Duff, Farrell, LaBelle Associates, also represent, Penrose. On similar projects, Penrose projects, where there's senior living facilities, they have a ratio of like 0.5, I shouldn't say like 0.5 to 0.6 value, in their history. They got 30 years of history doing this type of work. So with this proposed project, we are proposing there's 66 spots or 65 units, bedrooms. So, we feel based on their history and what we're providing that we have, sufficient parking on site.
The community portion of this, are there events that are held? Community events that are held? Because I thought it was multifamily plus a community area.
there's not commercial as part of this project.
Yeah, the application we sent to you, we did not include any community.
Okay.
Commercial space.
And the public transportation, and this is just, unfortunately based on the fact that I don't live down in Hudson, but have you identified the public transportation that's available within proximity to the site?
The locals may be able to know the answer to this a little better than I do as well, but I believe there's a public bus route that's proximate to the site. Within walking distance to the Amtrak station, I believe it's about a 20-minute walk to the Amtrak station. Anything else?
There's a bus that goes from Hudson up Fairview up to the stores on there.
There's two buses that
It
come.
runs that's coming one, that one runs about once an hour.
There's two public, the county runs one and Green County runs one that comes right up Warren Street. That allows people to go the Catskill and across the river. So there's two buses that will come through. The only bus, the county bus, the Green County only picks up on Warren Street. The other has locations in the city. That's only county bus have locations in the city. They have expanded their hours for convenience. So that's why I think for seniors, having that as a location it wouldn't be too much of a distraction.
Yeah, I think there's about a shopping mall or something.
Yeah.
We could get it added to the route, and if they could pick up just from your parking lot, and I think this suggestion of having a little shelter there would be really nice for the people who live there.
On the environmental report, one of the things is Penrose essentially proposing to pretty much gut the building and just work with the structure that's, the bones that are existing, or no?
So we would repurpose the building, respecting all the requirements of historic eligibility, historic tax credits, which are needed to preserve the building while using that funding source. But we would have to maintain some of the existing window openings, the existing walls of the classrooms, but some other elements of the building. And then of course, all the environmental hazards would have to be remediated.
Can you identify the any sort of remediation or abatement that's going to be needed for that building as part of the development?
Sure.
And you don't have to do it right now. You can do it in writing too. I mean, that would be better, is to supplement it in writing.
So the report that you saw, the hazardous material report, was not for Penrose.
No, I understand that. No, I understand it, and that's my concern, is that it's a portion of what needs to be completed. So
We did also do our own environmental study, which we'd be happy to share with the company.
Yes, I would like to see that.
And that's a phase 1 environmental assessment, which was performed by AEI recently, the past month or so.
So it's more updated.
It's more updated. They didn't identify any wrecks, which would be like more severe environmental hazards, which would need to be remediated. They did identify a couple areas of concern, which were the 10,000 gallon fuel oil UST, 275 gallon diesel UST, these bad pits, which are present in the building, and then the lead pits.
So I think we really need to see the report that you all commissioned. I'd already seen the one that was done for the Development Corporation. But I'd like to see yours, because I'm assuming that you're going to work off what you received, and we know of other issues in that building.
Absolutely, can share that.
Apart from renovating the actual building, is there any sort of disturbance that's going to happen to the site separate and apart from that? Sewer and water staying the same, or any of the lines changing? I mean, what type of actual impacts to that site are going to be occurring other than construction within the building?
Standard landscaping of the site, that would be normal for any comparable multifamily senior projects. Some light walkways to the frontage of the building, maintaining all the pavement that's there currently. Potentially, if the budget allows, making a small deck for residents to enjoy at the back of the building.
Will you be removing the trees at the back of the building?
We have no intention of doing that.
We would like to re-establish a former gravel path, west side of the building down to the bottom. This is instead of trying to extend Washington Ave so we can get to the trash.
You said you're reestablishing a gravel pathway on the site. Is that what you just said?
It was reported to us during a phone call with the fire department that there was once upon a time a gravel drive and was down there. We'd like to establish that.
Yeah.
Can you show that on the site plan?
Yes, currently it's just shown as a red dash line.
Okay.
But we'll get a more updated plan. So it's.
And this may have just been asked, and I apologize if I didn't hear it clearly. Is there going to be any sort of clearing of any of the trees that are in the back of the building?
No, only what's associated with that gravel path, if there's any trees in the way there.
Okay. And any need to change layout of sewer or water lines?
Not anticipated. Well,
Sorry, guys, I'll take that. So we anticipate that, at this point in time, we're trying to contact more with the city and gather information. But the water seems sufficient. The sewer, is still kind of under investigation there. We're working through that right now, hopefully collect some more data, but there potentially might be improvements to the existing sewer system for the school.
Okay. What type of improvements? You're just still investigating that? You don't know what's going to be needed yet?
Yeah, I don't know what's needed yet.
That was it on my questions for the materials that were provided. To give the council just a little bit more of a lay of the land for this process. The lead agency notices were sent out. The 30 days have not passed, so there will not be a resolution for next week about declaring lead agency status. That will actually happen in August. Hopefully, there will be input received from other agencies that are doing their reviews, such as the planning board, potentially the zoning board. I know that Penrose wants to seek, would be seeking 2 variances potentially with this project. They were going to submit preliminarily a application to the ZBA. The ZBA was put on notice though to start their own review for SECRA. I got a call from Craig asking to hold that. I haven't had a chance to talk to him yet. That call came in today, so I'm not sure what, I haven't been able to talk to him what his concerns were there. One thing that we do need to talk about though is that it's not just the development of the property, obviously, but also the zoning request change. And one thing that I need to know from the council is whether it is looking at this just for a straight change in zoning, so to just move this property and include it in the R4, or is there any sort of additional zoning changes that the council would like to consider as part of this process? Because I would like to start being able to put together, if the council wants to move forward with the change in zoning, put together a proposed local law that will have to be referred over to Columbia County Planning Board for their own review, as with any zoning change. And that is something that needs to start being discussed, to see if it's just an R4 change or if there's additional changes that the council may want to see in connection with this property.
Thank you, Crystal.
Crystal, can you just, explain what the current zoning use is and what the change in zoning is for this to become a senior, living?
So right now, the property is a single family residential, zoning. In order to change that, they're asking to go to change to R4, which is the multifamily. I know that since they are looking at variances because they do want to use this building, if that is something that we think that, say this does not work out with Penrose, but other developers are to come in and actually want to reuse this building, does the council want to consider, rather than just a straight change to R4, also allowing for the type of, the type of building that you have there, which is they're looking for variances to allow for 4 stories. R4 only allows for 3 stories, and also on the size of the building too, the length. I was looking at the draft comp plan. I saw that there had been some recommendations for mixed use over for this area. Is that something that the council would want to consider amending into a zoning change now, or is that something that it would want to wait on? To allow for certain types of commercial or mixed uses on this property as opposed to just multifamily or residential.
So my sense is that we would just do the civil change, because if we do get the grant to smart grant for rezoning, then we would be dealing with all those things, especially like the form code, it would encompass all those changes.
But the other thing, Chris, about this is that this particular proposal, and we've had a couple of goals at doing something with this building, but this particular proposal, which is very focused on housing for the elderly, I think if this works and it's successful, that's what it's going to be. And building it into something else, allowing something else, like if this doesn't go through, if for some reason this project doesn't work, then we'd be back to the drawing board to decide what we would need to do, right? But for what they proposed here, particularly the elderly, the parking issue we have talked about, in older, 12+ housing and elderly housing, we frequently do not need as many parking spaces. So that's just a given. But if this was to turn into, any age housing or, workforce housing, whatever, then it would be a very different conversation.
Right, we would like to have some say.
Yeah.
And I think
And the traffic would be a different conversation.
I say we keep it simple.
Yeah.
I think aging in place housing is what we need too, so.
Yeah.
And we definitely need these.
Right, so I think this is kind of,
Okay.
Good project.
It is a good project. Actually, I'm grateful you guys.
Anything else from council?
The only thing I would say is, can we get whatever materials you've got, that your hazard, please give us everything, site plans, whatever you've got, because if we're on a very tight timeline, the sooner we get things done.
Right, sure, especially since we'll probably be the agents. Anything else? Council, anything from the public?
Can I ask, what time is the 30-day, or what date does the 30-day comment period end for the agency?
I believe it's the 25th, but I have to go back and I'll double check that.
Anything else? Okay, I have a motion?
Yes.
Seconds?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Nope.
Okay.